to Down Your Unders. Down Your Unders. Review and dissection of content from some of the sharpest minds in the game. Hosted by Adam Camilleri. Art of War. Down Under.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this episode 180 of the Art of War Down Under podcast. I am joined by one of the two people who I hope will be joining us. Danny Sweetmeat McDevitt himself is currently unavailable, and we actually don't know why. So, Danny, please explain why he's not here. He's probably dead. Hope he's not dead. But we know he did just get, some very high scores on his nerd grading, which I believe is what we call it when he's trying to become a lawyer of some kind. So we're literally here going to pay him out for the first part of the show for missing the show because, how you doing, Peter?
I'm doing okay, man. It's rough. I've got this stuff in my chest now for 4 weeks, so I'm having a hard time talking, which is not great. My basement flooded from a freak snowstorm turned ice storm turned rainstorm, and how global warming works. Well, global warming happened within about a 2-minute time span in my neighborhood.
Wow.
So we got global warmed, and so I've been repairing my basement, and it's not so bad. Been like elbow deep in Old World, which has helped a lot because, man, I just love square-based models and living my best life other than that.
Fantastic. Well, you have joined me on this intrepid episode to discuss and pontificate about the end of this ITC season meta, what we're expecting or not expecting or hoping from the balanced data slate, which should be dropping, by the end of the month, what we're going to see at the LVO maybe, and then unpacking, what is good and the state of the game as it sits right now. In addition to that, you and I have some juicy things to announce. But before we do that, plug your regular wares, my man, if you would be so kind.
Plug my regular wares. You mainly can find me now on goonhammer.com. I do articles for mainly the old world now because that's my new jam, as I just said. But I also help with 40K content, sometimes behind the scenes, sometimes in full view of the world, providing insight on stats and data, as well as just generally what's going on in the world of 40K. Right now I'm doing a lot of review articles and rules articles for the old world that are slowly getting published as I kind of barrel through as much content as I can.
Baby.
And that's kind of my world life right now when it comes to fantasy and sci-fi gaming.
Fantastic. Well, as per usual, my plug for this show, this is a 2-part podcast, the second part of which you can find over at Art of War Down Under over on Patreon. And there will be a second part with hopefully Danny joining us for that one, where we will be answering your questions about the upcoming slate, possibly, which we have no foreknowledge of. We'll just be pontificating. We'll be shooting the S, so to speak, talking about what we like, what we don't like about the current state of the game, in addition to a bunch of other nice little bits and pieces. Please jump over and join us there. But, we were hoping Danny was going to be here to be the third head of the Hydra while we announce this. But Peter the Falcon, myself, and Danny, the Sweetmeats himself, have begun a new journey. That's a much better way of saying it. Into the old world of which we're aware, which spawned all three of us. If we are honest, we all came from there, and now we are almost returning home. But we are essentially starting a brand new show. It's called That Old World Charm. Some people hate it, specifically 2 people only that I have asked. Literally 2 people who I've asked about the name of our show have disliked it. It just so happens that they are 2 of our closest friends, and they're going to continue.
Debatable. They were our closest friends.
Everyone else has really enjoyed the name. So if by the time you're listening to this, our first episode should be up. That's our introductory episode, of course, with the 3 of us. And it is going to be essentially a carbon copy of this show. So predominantly a review podcast wherever possible, while we have things to review. But because of the kind of the way we expect Old World to be supported, we don't expect it to be like we're able to do with 40K, where like every month we will have 1 to 2 things new to review, and then I chuck in a stats episode, I chuck in a variety episode, and I'm good to go every month. So it will be a lot more of army construction, what is good in the game, a lot more meta dissection, mission dissection, tournament review, overview, etc., talking about the game from day dot as this thing evolves and is launched back into this brand new old world. Falcon, what are you excited about that show? What else should we tell people about it?
I mean, I'm on it.
A great start, mate. Great start. Yeah. Beautiful. Love your work.
That's just amazing. It's the old world, man. Like, what do you want me to say? It's Warhammer Fantasy Battle, which was like the most rich on the at least lore side of things, content that Games Workshop ever produced. Horus Heresy be damned. It had the coolest characters. Like, you cannot tell me that you could read the story of Archaon or Grimgor Ironhide or
Malice Darkblade.
Yeah, or Malekith or anybody in those days before some of it got rewritten and say that you didn't have your blood boiling by the time it was done in excitement. Everything about you was erect. You were standing just rigid, at attention, reading these amazing tales. When you put these models on the table, sure, there was a 50-50 chance you played against a person that was going to just purple sun half your army to death. But it was incredible. And now we've got it back after this long hiatus, a hiatus in which we had to play Warhammer 40K, which is an absolute like trash fire of a game. We had to pretend to like it and get excited about it because we needed to make money from outside of our regular jobs. So a bunch of us got Z tier internet famous talking about that's actually garbage, while we hoped to God that someone would see the light and bring back what was like arguably the greatest thing that ever happened to most of us outside of our marriages, if we had them, or our partners or our children. And even that's debatable. And then, we had Age of Sigmar, which started off real bad and then got better, but it still wasn't the same. Still wasn't the same. And now it's here and it's back. And Games Workshop is doing everything it can to make it a garbage fire, just like 40K. But we're not going to let it happen, because the one thing that Warhammer Fantasy players have been very good at, outside of the closet casuals that are currently on Facebook and Reddit right now, has been managing our game system if GW won't do it for us. And so I'm just super excited to play the game. I also have to say, despite everything I just said, the game's real tight. The rules are awesome. I've played a bunch of games. There's like 2 or 3 very easy fixes to the big problems. And in my opinion, like the actual like universal special rules and most of the game itself has been very well thought out. So I'm just extremely excited to talk about something I'm excited about, and just, listen to other people tell me about the game that I love.
Straight up, Art of War and Art of War Down Under do not condone or endorse the words by Peter the Falcon Colissimo during this programming, and we do regret bringing this show to you today. So thank you very much, Peter, for that one, and we'll try and continue as best we can. But do not be an advocate.
It was pretty stream of consciousness, so I don't know. I literally have no idea what I just talked about.
My content's not going to change. It's just another show I'm adding to the repertoire of the 4 I do every week. Please, for the love of the Lord, someone stop me. But yeah, please go over and enjoy that. The intro episode should almost definitely be out by now, if not the very first fully fledged episode. Like I said, it's going to be the same format as this, so it is going to be a part 1 and part 2. So there will be a Patreon, there will be a Discord, there will be all those basic, ad nauseum things you've come to expect. But now for the old world, yay! We're bringing our, capitalist junta over there to spawn and proliferate. But hopefully you will join us, because it is going to be a fantastic show. Peter, we're here to talk about 40K, despite your, the things that you did just say about it, because I do still love 40K, and I know you do too.
40K?
Sorry,
you do?
Yeah,
that's what you told me when we were off air. That's crazy,
Peter. Shush.
Just a big liar. Anyway.
Don't break the fourth wall, mate. We got to maintain some decorum at some point. But regardless, we're here to talk about the end of the season, the LVO. We're going to try and put our chicanery aside. Hopefully, at least finding this show entertaining. So okay, it's at the end of the season. LVO is coming up. I've got Peter on because me and Peter we streamed the LVO, last year together, and
the year before.
And the year before. So this is literally the dream team that I feel like I really love, and is a person I think about when I think about the LVO and I think about the end of the season. Good luck to Joe this year, who is going to be over there doing the stream. You should absolutely, definitely tune in and support the absolute hell out of it.
Joe.
He's going to be joined by Art of War's very own Jack Harpster sitting on the hot mic next to him. So that should be a phenomenal pairing. Hopefully they do a great job.
Nice. Joe, I hope they gave you one of the renovated rooms at the Rio and not one of the garbage rooms from previous years. I assume that re-splurged just for you. Jack Harpster, I don't know who you are, but I assume that you're a good
I've never heard of him. Yeah, I've never heard of Jack Harpster. Yeah, or is his evil twin? I think it's. Well, never mind. They've all got evil alter egos in the Art of War house. But I mean, you know, Joe. Even if they gave him the palatial king suite at the top of the tower, he'd still probably sleep in the back of his truck, right?
Yeah, in that little cul-de-sac at the back of the Rio.
Yeah. You know that's where he will be. He will walk in, see the chandelier, and just shake his head, walk back out, and go straight back to his trailer, straight back to the RV. He's like, "This ain't me, mate." But anyway, what are your hot takes right now on the current 40k meta? We did just see a little FAQ drop, and by little I mean quite substantial FAQ drop to the state of one of the Necron detachments, which will invariably shake things up. But mate, what's your feelings on the current state of the 40k meta?
I think we talked about this not that long ago. I think I was recently on your show talking about the stats up to a certain point. At that point, we hadn't seen any results for Necrons or AdMech. Now we've had a chance. There's not a lot of results. They dropped just before the holiday season.
Yeah.
So the amount of games that I've been tracking aren't extreme. I think it's more of the same. So Eldar definitely still the top dogs. Chaos Space Marines, World Eaters still up there. Black Templars still performing very well. But a lot of these are small sample sizes. Necrons were a big splash into the meta, mainly because of one very broken combination involving immortals and a stratagem that made them do so many devastating wounds that we had flashbacks to the beginning of the edition with Eldar.
Yes.
Luckily, that has been FAQ'd so that that no longer works. You can no longer add a unit with a Canoptech or Cryptech keyword to a unit and have them get the devastating wounds effect. It has to be a model with either of those keywords.
Yeah.
So immortals do not have that keyword by default. So in theory, that stratagem no longer works the way it used to. There's been a bit of crying online because some people base their entire life around that combination, as one does. And but Necrons, I think, are still very strong. I think the Canoptic Court is still quite good, even without that combination, although I don't think it's the best anymore. Mainly because they don't have a legitimate way to deal with heavy targets, I don't believe, any longer.
So that list no longer scratches the paint on vehicles. That
Exactly.
does absolutely nothing to vehicles. You need that list now. In my mind, I used to think that you could let one, maybe 2 Catan was the right number for that list. I now think it is 18 race 3 Catan is now the canonical course.
Yeah, I think that's what you're going to need to do. Maybe I don't know. I was about to say maybe Void Dragon, but just shut me up. And so anyway,
I agree. That's exactly what I said.
But Hypercrypt is a legit threat, and I think top end players with Necrons will just switch to Hypercrypt. It just requires a lot more thought.
So we pretty much the analogy right now that I'm seeing kicking around is that the Canoptic Court was the Ironstorm to the Hypercrypt Vanguard. And that the ceiling on the Hypercrypt was all play-wise, skill expression-wise, was always higher than the Canoptic Court, but it was much harder to get there, as we were seeing with the Vanguard. Best players in the world, John Lennon and stuff, can do absolute maestro bonkers stuff with the Vanguard that us slowly plebeians will need 100 reps in order to emulate. But if you are able to, you can get extreme levels of success out of it. And I feel like that's definitely the analogy for the Hypercrypt now, which I already thought was a superstar level detachment as it was. You're telling me you're going to get It's Grey Knights, but they can kill things. Oh my god, give it to me.
Right.
Yeah,
Like, and they've got some
sounds
amazing
amazing.
combinations. It's well, and yes, that Space Marine analogy is perfect. What we've seen, kind of, even with this, since with Space Marines, is kind of started out. Iron Storm was performing very well.
Yep.
Well, I shouldn't say very well. They were performing better than average, and most of the other Space Marines were struggling. John Lennon did have some success with Vanguard. We've seen some people try to emulate it.
Yep.
Post Necron's FAQ, we've seen, with, like I said, it's a small data set because the holidays is a slower period.
Yeah.
We have seen like Vanguard kind of jump to the top as the best competitive Space Marines list in terms of representation, with Firestorm right below it, kind of with a middling performance, which I kind of felt like Firestorm was better than its stats were, because it is also a mobility based detachment. It does have a lot of strengths, but I believe like Vanguard is just better at it than what they do. That said, I'm still all in on Firestorm when I play, because I love my Blood Angels, I love my Bale Predators, and my Death Company with like Inferno Pistols and Hand Flamers just doing tricks. But
I've got 3 different Firestorm lists in my battle scribe right now. One for Black Templars, one for Dark Angels. Actually, 2 for Black Templars, 1 for Dark Angels. And I'm going to be playing the Dark Angels one at an RTT next weekend, where I expect to get absolutely mulliganed, but I'm going to have a great time. Because I don't have enough.
I don't know. Is your RTT in like New South Wales or something? Because they have just the weirdest meta in the world, as always.
How funny is it? I love the Australian meta. It's the literal box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. It's so funny.
It seems like there's a point where like something in the desert affects your brains, and everything like west of center is just out there, and it's always been that way. I've been tracking stats for like 6 years now, and it's like Perth and that, like all of those places. Anytime I've tried to track one of their events, I'm like, I don't even know what's going on anymore. I don't even think they're playing the same game.
Right. There's no rhyme or reason. We just are. We're a force of nature, and we love it. We love being misunderstood.
All the lists have everybody named in them, down to the model.
Yes.
Weird situation over there.
Yeah. It's a beautiful place. Anyway, because we do. So we have Nottingham Super Major this weekend. Coming up weekend after that will of course be LVO, and Uprising. So the 3 biggest, the end of year event for the UK, end of year event for the United States, end of year event for Australia. I've done the stats over on the one Meta Chasers for Nottingham, and there are just as many Necrons as there are Eldar. There's 34 of both in representation out of 137, I think. So it's 10% of that meta is Necrons and Eldar. Is that something you expected?
Yeah. Not like the thing about some of the UKTC super majors, particularly the early in the year ones, I find early in the season or late in the season, depending on how you want to put it, is that like the concentration of the player base is so thick that like generally these UK events are going to have more people that are tryhards and pushing it to the limit. From a competitive standpoint, it does not shock me at all, because I believe like pre-FAQ Necrons were just as strong as Eldar, like pretty much across the board, and they deal easily with Chaos Space Marines and to a lesser extent World Eaters, which had been like the ones that had been threatening Eldar up to this point.
Well, it was really interesting because I was helping a couple of people prep for LVO, and I was playing Space Marines into Chaos Space Marines, and I was just trying on every single list that I thought of that could get close to CSM, and I got close with a couple, but didn't beat them with anything very consistently. And we constantly kept coming back to what can Chaos Space Marines do against the race, because they don't. It's the first unit we've had in the game where they're inefficient. Essentially, the first unit where they're inefficient. Going into a 4+5+, even spending CP, sacrificing to go in and precision out a Technomancer doesn't guarantee that a unit of Chosen is going to go straight through the race, and then they have very little in answer for a Catan.
Yeah.
Let alone 3. Yeah, or 2.
That's it.
That's it. It was a statement. It was a full stop on that. Let's talk about the balance slate, which we know nothing about, and we don't know when it's coming. I wish we did.
I bet it comes out the day before LVO.
Why would you say something so brave?
I would put money on the balance data slate coming out like in the week leading up to the LVO. Like,
I mean, it did last year, right?
Yeah,
it did last year. Yeah,
yeah.
It's wild. Anyway, do you think this will be an impactful one? Do you think we need another holistic balanced data slate like we had the previous?
I think this is going to be a very interesting data slate. There's a lot of word on the street, like that there's an emphasis on internal balance with this data slate.
That would be fantastic. Oh my God.
I think it's going to be I think it's going to be bigger. I would like to believe it's going to be bigger than people think. That said, there are still external balance problems. Mainly, Eldar is still too powerful. Necrons are probably not going to be touched in this balance data slate because they don't have enough information.
They're too soon, yeah.
So they're too soon, but we do need to see some tweaks to Chaos Space Marines. We do need to see a tweak to World Eaters on the bottom end. Custodians need some help. I think they've got maybe their second GT win in like 6 months.
Which was in Australia.
Yeah, exactly. New South Wales kicking it up with the go wide custodies list, which has kind of been theorized as being okay, but it's good enough for you guys. There's far more armies than that need some help. Like Votan needs a pat on the butt more like a pat on the head to like get down, like push them down.
But I like what you said about internal balance, because a fun little exercise we might do is actually reel off the books that we think have decent internal balance, because there's not many. One of the things we can say about Index Hammer is that we have seen extremes dominate. And that has been the case for the first portion of this edition, and especially for the first portion of 8th edition as well. The number of I'm really trying to think of a army that has good unit selection in what we could generally consider to be the troops, elites, heavy supports, fast stacks. Even though those things have gone away, I'm trying to think of one that actually has a decent choice in all of those categories.
I don't know.
Sisters pretty good at the moment.
Sisters is pretty balanced across the board, and they've been having some good success, and they just keep getting slightly better.
I feel like Sisters are getting better when the rest of the metagame just gets toned down. Sisters just keep looking better and better and better, and their weapons and profiles start looking better and better. Apart from Melter Guns, better and better and better. They're in an extremely good place. They're I think one of the best all-comers lists in the game at the moment.
I agree, and their results, they keep showing it even in the new year. I think they've had 2 or 3 wins already. They're boasting a pretty decent, 54% win rate.
Very healthy
over a couple hundred games. It's not terrible at all.
Fantastic. Can you think of another? Give us another guess. What is another one with a good internal balance? An index specifically. Balance. So we won't talk about any codexes.
Index.
It's hard, isn't it? Do you know who it isn't? Demons.
It's not demons. It's not Space Marines.
It's not orcs.
It's not orcs. It's not. World Eaters, because they only have 6 choices to begin with.
It's not world. No. That is incorrect, Peter. Because the World Eaters actually have a bunch of stuff in their book. They got Predators and Fortrines and Maulafines and Hellbrutes and Helldrakes and Land Raiders.
I don't even consider.
They're exactly right. They have so much in that book, and you don't even know because they never get close to consideration.
I thought the book just had Berserkers and 8-Bound in it, and Lord Invocatus and
because that is what every list that you've ever seen would lead you to believe. I thought that
book was 11 pages long.
Yeah. It's so good. Finally, Chaos Space Marines. Chaos Space Marines, fantastic internal balance.
They do. They've got a lot of options, and there's not very many that are bad. Although you just listed off several of them that are in the World Eater Codex, which I know are also in the Chaos Space Marine Codex. Adam,
so one thing I will caveat this discussion with is I think Space Marines have perfectly fine internal balance, because you have, and I say internal balance because I know there's 100 data sheets, so it's impossible for them to all be good. The same thing, I can say the same thing for so many other factions. Orcs is another good example as well. But when I see a good list that can be made from a wide variety of units, and it's not just a Control C, Control V experience, which unfortunately is where Orcs are at. Space Marines, like you look at a Space Marine Vanguard, it's got Inceptors, it's got Scouts, it's got aggressors, it's got Devastator Centurions, it's got at least 3 characters, usually 4 characters. It's got transport, it's got a tank, in a Land Raider, a Redeemer at a lot of the times. Maybe not the Vanguard, sorry. But you know what I mean? There is legitimate choices in a vast swathe of different sections and different unit types. And that's what I would classify as good internal balance for the current state of the game. I think when we've all got codexes, we can aspire to be more than that. But yeah.
Yeah, I can't think of another one. Leagues of Votann, you really only just don't take the Hecaton Siege Fortress. Everything else is
correct.
Pretty good in that book, but there's also only 7 data sheets.
Do you think Sagittars need a nerf?
Yeah.
How bad?
They probably just need to go up
20 points?
Yeah, it's 20 points.
130. Yeah, 130 seems fair for me.
Yeah. I think if you up them about 20 points, you probably need to bump up a couple other things.
I think you can lower a couple of things if you put them up. Like Pioneers could be a little bit cheaper.
I think Pioneers are perfect.
Yeah, what are they now? Oh no, sorry. I was thinking, what's the other unit? So it's not Thunderkin. Thunderkin are fine. Hearthguard are probably about right. You're right. Yeah. Pioneers are about right.
I think everything in that book is fine. Berserk's got a bad rap early, but anytime you play in a game with like a heavier terrain option or a fixed terrain where where things are going to be, Berserks are actually awesome.
Very good. And they have come back into the fore as the game has progressed into a more melee based, into play. As the rise of Chaos Space Marines, the rise of World Eaters in the meta, Orcs even, they've become very necessary pieces. Yeah.
Like really, the only things you don't see a lot of Thunderkin, and you can't make them cheaper. 25 points is a steal. It's just the range is a problem.
Exactly right.
The Hecaton land fortress could probably go down a little bit, but that would probably be the only thing I would consider.
Fair. Let us shift over to Eldar. I have not reviewed the Eldar. I have not reviewed the Eldar index. And I've done that. I haven't reviewed the Chaos Space Marine Index on this show either. I've reviewed so many others, and I've dodged them at every turn because it would be an exercise in futility. Because I do believe they're both going to get a pretty big whack with the nerf stick again. But what can you do to Eldar? Because I feel like they're at the tipping point where if they increase points again, there's just no army in that army. That army is just is not even there. They just cost too much to play the game. So where is the balance? And do we want one, or should they just be, put out to pasture?
I wish we could. I wish we could not
delete them for a couple of months. Everyone just move on with your lives and just forget for a little bit.
Like, I think you need to get rid of Battle Host, give them a completely different detachment. Just be like, Battle Host is gone. Sucks to be you guys until we get a new codex. Here's this other one we were thinking about that's not as good. And then, not that Battle Host is incredible, but it's quite good, I think. And then I think we need to look at hitting. God, there's so many good data sheets in that book still, and it's been nerfed to shit.
Exactly, it's still going strong. This is the issue with Eldar, right? Eldar, for some reason, Eldar gets nerfed. Eldar gets nerfed on different metrics to other armies. Look what they did to Imperial Knights and Custodies. Why didn't they do that to Eldar? They tried, but for some reason it didn't make a damn bit of difference.
Yeah, like I do think if you can get rid of Battle Host, like change the detachment ability, get rid of the stratagems, give them different stratagems. I feel like at least until they get a codex, that's like the boldest but easiest fix, because
it's just
otherwise, it's almost like a rewrite. Because there's just so much stuff that God, it is so ridiculous that we're talking about this a year after after everything, and we knew a year ago that this was going to be a thing.
Correct.
But at the same time,
in in the behind the NDA wall land, Peter and I knew Eldar was going to be absolutely bonkers on index release. And now literally, like, it's been almost a year since you and I have had some knowledge of what Eldar was going to be in 10th edition. And we were both like, and the fact that we're still sitting here coming up to an LVO being like, Eldar's about to ruin the game for everybody in like T-minus 5 months, you know? And now we're 7 months after that, we're like still having the same conversation.
I think you and I were talking about this at the last LVO.
We were. That's why I'm bringing it up. We actually were.
Can you believe what Eldar are going to look like behind closed doors on a backstage in Las Vegas? Just the two of us. Like, holy crap, what is happening? And now here we are. And I don't think I was a genius. I don't think everyone saw it on the wall, and then it just kept happening. And now here we are. And
I'd love somebody to go back through all the editions of the game and just add up how much time of 40K's existence Eldar has been busted. Because like they were busted for what, about 18 months of 8th edition, all the way through Double Speed Yanari, through the many iterations of that, where they just kept evolving, all the way down that chain. 9th edition was definitely, no different. Although I suppose it was more Harlequins than I suppose with a bigger problem than Eldari. You know, Eldari was still very strong. And yes, definitely in 7th edition. Yeah. Anyway, for as long as I can remember, Eldar has been one of the constant problematic factions evermore. In this case, I think relative fixes is Yin Khan gets to pop up once per turn or once per battle round, depending on how hard you want to go at her. As in, like, she can't pop up and pop away in the same turn or at all. Would be great. Like, she could pop up in one turn, and then in your opponent's turn, she can pop away if she gets the opportunity, or just once per battle round. I couldn't care which one, actually. In fact, do the once per battle round. Just kill the unit. I don't care. She's still such a feel bad for new players that I don't feel like it's a good mechanic.
Even if you did it once per battle round, like if your opponent leaves something in their backfield, like a 5-man on an objective, thinking they're being cheeky, and then they take some indirect to the face. She's in your backfield and you have to deal with her, and that's perfectly good. Like, that's still going to deal with like 40% of your opponents.
And then the next thing you have to do is what I want to see happen is the Night Spinner profile, and they will not do this, but this is, I think, is the best, most elegant fix. The Night Spinner profile gets broken down into different modes. You have an indirect mode, which it is not devastating wounds, and it is not minus. It does not get the minus move and no advance. That's on a direct fire mode that you have to choose instead. So you can direct fire and minus move and no advance, or you can indirect fire and you're just strength 6, whatever, who cares? Or strength 7, whatever it is. And I want them to do that. So you can have your spinners, but if you want them to be good, you're going to have to trade them. And that is all that I want for that unit. So there's no more of that nonsense and especially they're not having the dev wounds on the indirect fire, and you just pick up units because you have enough fate dice and rerolls because of battle hosts. So I think that would be a great fix for that, because honestly, I mean, I look at the points for a lot of Eldar units, I'm like, man, they can't put them up much more.
No, I think there just comes a breaking point, right, where they just become useless after. But that said, like nerfing a couple units, there's still 8 more on the back end that are just fine. We're getting there. I just feel like, do you remember, like, when we look back at like 8th edition Iron Hands? The amount of nerfs they took.
Didn't matter, and Broviathan was sitting there the whole time.
Well, what I can, and luckily for Eldar players at least, they haven't paid for a codex yet, so they're not dealing with it from the financial standpoint that like Iron Hands players do. But I just remember the end of that scenario. My friend, who was an avid Iron Hands player, like from like, a billion years ago, before they were good. And he just loved the army, and he was so excited when they were good. And then by the end of it, like, he showed me his codex supplement, and like, cause he had marked in it when everything's changed. And like, they were just like, it was like looking at like a redacted goddamn, like form. Here's all these black lines through things. Yeah. It's just, there's just a lot going on. But and now with Eldar, we're seeing so many changes. But that said, at least they haven't paid for anything yet, other than the models. So,
How do you feel about the big fix people are throwing around for Chaos Space Marines? That a lot of the Chaos Space Marines believe will just kill the entire index, being that you have to have the right marked units in the right marked transports. So you can't have all your transports just be Mark of Nurgle and have units undivided and or Slanesh units in. They have to be undivided and or Slanesh to have Slanesh units inside them, etc. Do you think that is as big a nerf as CSM players are saying?
No.
I think it's fine. I don't get what they're complaining about. It's kind of fair, actually.
Guys, who's complaining about that? Is it Soli?
100% it's Soli.
Soli, I know you don't listen to this, but come on.
But come on.
Come on.
Hey, come on.
You're bigger than this.
But what do you think is a fair fix for them? So there are the three problem units being, of course, the biggest problem being the reholster hit, reholster wound stratagem. That thing can die in a fire. But then Accursed Cultists, Chosen, and Forge Fiends are all extremely good. I mean, chuck the Chaos Lord in there as well.
Yeah. So the rerolls to hit, rerolls to wound, it needs to not be what it is. That's like when I got to like, I'm not going to say playtest. I wasn't an official playtester, but when I got to test the Chaos Space Marines Index, it was literally the first thing that our friend Dickie did that made me go, "What the heck is this?"
Yeah.
When he rerolls, full rerolls to hit, rerolls to wound, obliterators into my face when I was behind a wall. And I was like, that can't be true when he told me that when he told me what it did. So that just needs to be, I don't know if they need to delete it, if they need to make it so that it's once per game. I don't know. Like, it just needs to not exist the way it does.
Make it 2 CP and a battle tactic. So everyone can get to 3 CP and then it's just whatever. You got to use it once. Congratulations.
Get out of here. That's so insane.
Get out of here. Yeah. What's wild?
Sorry.
Can you think of like Oath of Moment was the only other thing I can think of in the game that gave 4 rolls to hit, 4 rolls to wound, and they nerfed that completely. They killed half of that. The better half of that got deleted, as in the rolls to wound was the better half of that, and it's now gone.
I mean, we spent 3 months getting into this edition in the run up, saying there was going to be less rerolls to hit, less rerolls to wound, and then a faction just got it on a stick for taking like a default mark. That's wild. It's wild.
Wild. Sorry, continue, mate.
Yeah, well, Curse Cultists, I think points can just fix that. Maybe you need to adjust unit sizes or something too.
Well, I actually think if you were going to hit them, you put the unit up a little bit, and then you put the Dark Commune up a bunch.
Yeah, that
because the unit without the Dark Commune isn't a thing, and you should be able to take that unit without much harm. But having the both together is a big problematic thing in the game.
Yep. And then Chosen, I think if you can fix the Rhino problem, Chosen become a lot easier to deal with, because Chosen just die, right? Mm-hmm. Like they're not. I've never had a problem with Chosen if I had a turn to shoot them. It's just I generally haven't.
Yep, same for me.
Right? Like
you get to shoot them after they've killed something really good from your army.
Exactly.
That's the way it goes.
Right? Like it's like, oh, they popped out. Whatever they wanted to kill is dead, and it's usually way more points than what they did than what they are. Mm-hmm. And then you're like, okay, well. Yeah, cool. They chose die right after, because as long as you have anything left on the board. But like I feel like the Rhino fix for Chosen should theoretically be enough, or just the fact that we're touching other things.
What can be done to make Nurglings and Lone Op Demon units feel like they're not overpowered and amazing in non-demon lists without hurting demon players, if that makes sense? Because Blue Scribes and Nurglings and Changeling are kind of not okay being able to be slapped into Chaos Knights and Chaos Space Marine lists. They are extremely good and add whole new dynamics and flavors and ways to play for those armies.
Yeah.
But how do we nerf those without just like backhanding the already like dying in the gutter demon players who have had very unmerited nerfs already?
I believe you just have to change like the demonic ally rule. Like there has to just maybe be an addendum to it, so that maybe if they are allied with your Chaos Space Marines or your Knights or whatever, they're a little bit weaker. And there's like a million different ways you could do that, and it's been done in the past, where maybe I don't know. Like I could list off 100 different things you could do, but if you just had a thing where if you take these as allies, there's either a further restriction you have to have on top of what they currently add, or the demon units themselves are inherently weaker because you took them not in an actual chaos
demon detachment. Yeah, so maybe like they get one worse invulnerable save.
Possibly.
Yeah, something akin to that.
Yeah, they drop an invulnerable save. Drop an invulnerable save, drop a leadership or something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe they have some kind of instability rule when you have them with you, so they just potentially fuck off.
They battle shock easier, or
battle shock easier. Yeah, or both. Things like that can add a little bit of flavor to the fact that you're taking them for people that like that. And then on a competitive side, it kind of pushes them where they're still a legitimate option for your lists, but you now have an added bit of randomness or fear to having them there. So
yeah, I don't mind that. What about demons actually in general? Because right now, I mean, funnily enough, we've actually seen some demon players doing not awful, but they're taking extreme level skews. Like we're taking soul grinders and greater demons, and then just nurglings, as many as they can fit in. And it seems like that is pretty much what that faction has been for this portion of 10th edition so far. What do you do to diversify that? Is it just literally making lesser demons cheap as chips?
For now, probably. Until we can get an actual factual demons codex that gives us some, legit detachments for each of the chaos gods, which is, I assume, what they're going to do.
100%.
You'll probably get like a Bellacore detachment and then one for each of the chaos gods.
Yeah.
I feel like what we need to do now, and plus the one we currently have, but hopefully better. We'll need some point deductions basically across the board on anything that isn't a nurgling or a greater demon, to kind of get things back in line for them. So, and to be honest, they don't need huge ones because demons are always the thing that I feel like are balanced on a knife edge, because they're sometimes you just get to a point where an inbuilt invulnerable save is too strong regardless, just for how cheap they are.
Fair. I know we haven't talked about every faction, and we definitely didn't have time to talk about every faction, but now we are going to predict our LVO top 8, baby. All right. Peter, give us your take.
LVO top 8, eh? Give me a second. I'm going to do this from an informed perspective, because
don't look at the players list, you punk. Just
why are you doing this to me?
It's supposed to be hot take. It's supposed to not be cold, methodical, thought out take.
But that, you and I have known each other for years. And when was the last time I gave a hot take other than 12 minutes ago when I said things that probably made you very nervous about your show being demonetized, which I didn't even think about when I started talking, and now I am greatly worried about and apologize.
It's fair. It's Seamus's problem now, baby. Don't worry about it.
Seamus, listen, I'm so sorry. This is Danny's fault. You can blame Danny.
He
was supposed to be on the show. Danny is always the voice of reason. I don't know if you've ever heard him on any other show.
Yeah. Very fair, measured, and balanced.
Very fair, murdered Peter. You just murdered the English language. Okay, my top 8. We're gonna have 2 Eldari in the top 8.
Yep. All right.
We're gonna have a Necron.
1 Necron. Yep.
We're gonna have a Space Marine, probably Black Templars, maybe Ultramarines.
BT/Alters.
What else are we gonna have? We're gonna have a Sisters of Battle.
Yep. Ooh, that'd be good.
We're at 5. We'll have a Chaos Space Marine.
CSM. Yep.
We'll have a World Eater.
Oh, you're so much more diverse than I was going to be.
And we're gonna have a second one of those guys I said was only 1.
So which one would you like? Necrons, Astartes, Sisters, CSM, World Eaters for 2.
2 CSM, 2 Eldari, CSM. One of those other 4.
Beautiful. How many players they got registered right now? Right now they have 883. And just 11, literally. Yeah. Is it?
Those are weak numbers. 883. What happened to that?
Right? Yeah, I know. The ass has just fallen out completely.
Well, weren't they at like 1100 last year before? Like, I think we ended at like 900 and some.
I can't remember, mate. It's a blur. Literally a blur.
Makes me
But anyway,
nervous.
I'm gonna go with two. Let's go. I'm gonna go 3 CSM, 2 Eldari. I'm gonna be real bad. I'm gonna
That's
one
wild. That's
one
wild.
Chaos Knights.
No.
Naden's going, and if he's playing Orcs, I'm gonna put 1 Orcs in there. I don't know if he's playing Orcs.
See, now you're doing that. Like you told me not to, and now you're doing it.
Mate. So the exception is Sean Naden at the LVO, right?
We always know Sean Naden's going to be the top 8, but I wasn't going to be like that. You made me not.
Fine. I'll put an Orcs in for you as well. If Orcs are in there, I'll give you a point.
If Sean Naden shows up to the LVO with Orcs, yes, he will probably be in the top 8, and or everyone will say he was robbed by something that happened in the first several games.
That's exactly what's going to happen. And I'm going to go 1 Astartes. So 3 Chaos Space Marines, 2 Eldar, 1. Oh, see, I didn't put Necrons in there. Yeah, I'm putting
wild, man.
I'm putting 1 Eldari, 1 Necrons. There we go. That's a bad take. Let's get ready. Let's get ready for those numbers, those rookie numbers by Adam. That is not going to be the case. Anyway, let us just quickly have a hot take on what we think the next 3 months of the game are going to be like post data slate. So do you remember the codexes that we have coming down the pipe?
We have Dark Angels Codex supplement very soon.
Correct.
Like it feels like probably tomorrow, but it'll probably be a week or 2 from now. Yes, Space Marines are short in the short term.
We have Dark Angels and Orcs slated to come in the next couple of months, and then Custodes, Tau, Chaos Space Marines, and I believe Gene Stealer Cults, Adeptus Sororitas, and a Redacted for the summer. So in the spring, we're going to get 5 codexes, Dark Angels and Orcs, and then Custodes, Tau, and Chaos Space Marines.
I'm excited for Orcs.
Yeah, me too. Absolutely, I'm excited for Orcs.
Always excited for Orcs. Not excited for Dark Angels. They're the worst. And I bet they stay that way.
You suck.
I bet they stay that way. I bet they get even worse.
I'm really worried about I think the next month is going to be fantastic. The month after that, we have 3 problematic factions getting codexes.
Are they getting them within a month? I don't feel like it's not.
We don't.
I feel like it'll be 2 months. The very
least. They said spring. So of the next 3 months, I think we're going to have the first month as being totally fine, if not awesome, and then the next 2 months is going to be questionable because Adeptus Custodes is a coin flip of whether or not it comes out busted, and Tau has always had 1 ultra busted list out of the last 2 editions that's come out on release and busted the game wide open, and then needed to be toned back. Actually, I can say that for every Tau codex since 6th edition, to be honest.
They're gonna give broadsides devastating wounds on missiles or something. They're just gonna be like, "Yep, here's the thing. You deal with it."
Yeah.
Or they're gonna give red sides triple shots, and you're just gonna be like, "Oh."
Correct. Chaos Space Marines are much the same. Of the modern era of the game, 8th edition and 9th edition, Chaos Space Marines have had very, very, very powerful builds in both from their
Abaddon is broken again.
Yes, who would have thought?
No preview knowledge. I'm just saying.
Mate, there's going to be a detachment in there that is going to just make us get all cold sweats thinking about the 60 possessed Slanesh possessed Emperor's Children possessed armies. And it's just going to be a cursed cultist instead, and we're all going to freak out.
And we're going to get Fulgrim. We aren't going to get Fulgrim, people. Get over that, by the way.
Yeah.
If any of you think
Emperor's Children will get a codex. I guarantee you at some point Emperor's Children will get a codex.
Yeah, you're going to get a supplement, and it's going to have new Noise Marines, and it's going to have Phoenician Terminators. Guys, like I know who you are. I know you Emperor's Children players. I've seen you. I know what you want, and it's coming. It might be a year from now. It might be 2 years from now, but just you wait. The day will come. You won't have to run those ugly-ass Noise Marines anymore from Forge World that are 7,000 years old. You're not going to be 3D printing stuff, you shameless individuals.
Mate, they're thematic.
Plastic models.
The heresy models are thematic. They're literally as old as they are. They're veterans of the Long War in spirit as well, because that's when Forge World printed them.
Yeah.
Anyway, by printed, I mean resin mold poured them. That is going to end us for this episode, mate. Hopefully you've enjoyed our whimsical march through the last couple of months of the game and talking about the next couple as well. This has hopefully been your LVO primer, and you're going to get pumped up for the end of this ITC season and then the launch into, whatever's coming next, whatever the next seasons look like.
Yes.
It's going to get very exciting. We've also got, G-Dubs doing their thing now at full power. ITC looks like they're going to run a bunch more stuff. There's team tournaments popping up literally everywhere.
It matters.
Yeah.
Old World is coming.
Yeah. You should check out that Old World Charm.
People play Old World, listen to Old World Charm. The rest doesn't matter. Just relax. Adam, Seamus, I'm sorry I made the White House redacted joke.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. I hope that doesn't impact anything.
You're just making more for him to do now by mentioning it again. I love you. Continue.
I'm sorry about my stream of consciousness where I probably said that Games Workshop makes bad games, because I didn't mean that. I mean it a little bit, but not a lot. Anyway, you guys, you have a good night.
You have a good night too, mate. Thank you so much for joining us.
Bye-bye.
That's been Peter the Falcon, everybody. We may never see him again.
Thank you for listening to Art of War Down Under, a content review podcast for Warhammer 40K, hosted by Adam Camilleri, produced by Seamus Ronan. Enjoyed the show? Want your lists reviewed and the content you heard put into practice? Sign up to our Patreon and connect with us online or on Facebook. Just search for Art of War Down Under. Signing out from tomorrow.